There are times when you need to go back in history to understand the present. So today I'm starting with narrating a historical incidents to understand what happened at Jantar Mantar. The year was 1938 and war seemed imminent in Europe as Adolf Hitler started demanding the annexation of Sudetenland, which was a border region of Czechoslovakia with basically ethnic German speaking people. Now, war seemed very near, but Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, and the French Prime Minister, they travelled to Munich to try and convince Hitler not to take recourse to war. Hitler agreed, but the agreement was on the basis of secession of Sudetenland and to Germany, and he said that henceforth he will not be expanding further into Europe and Czechoslovakia would be safe. Now the Czechs were not even invited to Munich, and what happened afterwards was that Neville Chamberlain travelled back to London at 10 Downing Street, very proudly proclaimed that he had brought peace for our times. Now this was going to bite the British very hard, and very soon, as within 6 months, the Germans had annexed the entire Czechoslovakia, and then they attacked Poland, and in less than a year, World War II had started. So conceding to aggression to avoid war, in most cases, is responsible for even more violent wars at a later stage. That is what history has always shown. Accommodating unreasonable, violence-loving mob for the purpose of achieving peace does not have a history of success. Any democracy where street power can coerce state power to yield to its demands, reasonable or unreasonable, by the threat of force without taking recourse to constitutionally provisioned mechanisms will have consequences beyond the immediate. When a mob attacks security personnel, when a mob attacks public property, it is not only an attack on the property or the people, it is more of an attack on the state. The state in that case is duty bound to use coercive power to impose the rule of law. Any state backing down from using coercion is doing a disservice to the constitution it is duty bound to protect and the law abiding people. Coercion is a legitimate instrument to preserve democracy, and it is the duty of the courts to ensure that the state does not step out of line while using coercion to defend the constitution. That is the balance of power which allows a democracy to prosper and rule of law to be enforced. Mob cannot simply be allowed to run over common people. Anyone who celebrates the mob as victory of people is not a true believer in democracy and is in fact part of the problem and is in no way connected with for him to be a part of this solution. We have all seen many retired army officers, movie celebrities, some sportsmen whom you expect to be more responsible come out in support of protests and basically the violence at Jantar Mantar using different innuendos, euphemism to support that violence. And they have all have been against the police action. They have condemned the police action. The minimal police action has been condemned by them. But not one word has been said by them in appreciation of the restraint displayed by the Delhi police, the Rapid Action Force, and different security agencies and forces posted at Jantar Mantar, who, despite the constant provocation by the mob, did not react. A big salute to all the security personnel who did what they were expected to and a bit more. And to the youth who, under the pretext of protests, repeatedly abused, attacked the security personnel and seem to be constantly instigating and provocating the security personnel to different taunts. It makes for a very good Insta post and it makes for very many likes and views. But remember, these people are the barriers between peace and anarchy. Respect them. They work like none of us do. And it is because of them that you have the opportunity to indulge in this, enjoy the freedom, which was basically an abuse of the freedom. Speaking of freedom, my apprehension about the quality of education has increased after watching the painful sight of a section of protesters, especially girls, holding out placards with the choicest and the filthiest of abuses for the Prime Minister. These were the sort of abuses which would basically put even the worst of rowdies to shame. Is this the education our schools, colleges, and families are imparting? If this is the state of affairs of our society, the first resignation should come from parents of these horrible specimens. They have failed to bring up civilized children. And for those celebrities instigating this mob, my question to you is, will you ever give employment to such terrible creatures in your own office, your factory, your schools, your movie sets, your acting schools, college, anywhere? But then to expect you to respond with your double standards is, I'm sure you are not going to respond to this and give me a true answer, because that is the inherent nature of hypocrites like you. If for a moment the protester feels that they have won, then they are mistaken. Their faces, especially the abusive and violent ones, are all over the country. Now they and their families will be shunned by prospective employers, relatives, friends, and the society. No one wants an abusive or toxic person around them. Crying victimhood might be self-serving later on, but it is not going to be helpful in any way. The fight has just begun for these violent, toxic protesters. Political parties and the anarchists will move on to fresher, even more violent lot to serve their agenda, and these people, or a good number of them, will be thrown into the dustbins of history, and their careers are it's a downslide henceforth. Now, since Sonamwangchuk was the face of this movement, my direct question to him: what reforms in education system did you achieve after this protest? Were you fooled, or did you know as to what you were walking into? Your hard-earned reputation is now in the dumps, and not even the one who wanted you to be the Education Minister of India and the frequent traveler to the unknown who sometimes comes back to India, or even your chelas have said a word in support of you. That is how your story seems to be ending right now. And in the end, what was achieved? Government was already working and is still working on better competitive examinations and trying to plug the loopholes. The genuine students were already studying, they were always studying, and regime change, as these anarchists believe would be happening, is still a pipe dream and will always remain a pipe dream in a country like India and its vibrant democratic ethos. And what was lost? The hard-earned reputation which India had achieved of moving into the next league of nations, and trust which the world had in us, the faith the world had in our youth, that is seemingly lost as of now. Instead of aspiring to be the next Singapore and achieving everything, it seemed at times that this lot wanted India to be the next Sri Lanka, this lot wanted India to be the next Nepal, and this lot wanted to be India to be the next Bangladesh. Jantar Mantar has thrown up a lot of questions. Let us see whether and when we find answers to them.